Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. The next thing we have up is Tekken Tea with Hunter and Dr. Danbee Kim. I'm going to pass the stream over to him in a moment. Hunter, you are now live.
It's lovely to be back. Happy New Year to everyone. It's the first Tekken Tea of this year, and wow, it's it's already a lot. But we're going to take 1 hour away from all the madness that is taking place, and we're going to do something really exciting. We're going to talk about cuttlefish fish 1 hour with a really, really, really amazing person that I have had the pleasure to meet this week. It's Dr. Danbee Kim. Dr. Danbee Kim is all the amazing things together at once. They are a cuttlefish neuro scientist. They're a comic book artist. They do outreach with children, teaching them about neuroscience. I'll let this explain themselves. And I'm really, really, really excited. It's going to be really amazing. So, a quick reminder. Please join the conversation in chat. In order to do that, you will need a Twitch account, which would be amazing if you get a Twitch account. That would be absolutely helping us. The algorithm picks up who gathers audience, who isn't. So if you want to help us out, that would be the only thing that you can do for us. Otherwise, I'm really looking forward to this. Let's go straight into the chat. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hello, how are you doing? Yes, everything works, right? How are you?
You might want to be on the right scene, Hunter, just so you know.
Are you not on the right scene?
We're currently seeing your stream starting. There we go.
Okay. It
just
seems like it's my... No. I think my Streamlabs is just very, very slow. So that's it. I clicked on the right thing. But hello, how are you?
How are you?
Yeah, good. Really excited. Thank you so much for giving us your Saturday evening.
Of course, yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me.
What do you want to have a chat now? Do you want to go straight into the presentation? You are totally in charge of this if you want. You're the very first guest to put together.
Well, okay, so I wanted to use the presentation more as just like a guideline for us to talk about things. And so yeah, like, please just, let's go on tangents, and, if there's questions popping up on something, I'm happy to like pause there and really delve in if people are super interested. I did already warn Hunter that there will be an interactive component, or I would like there to be an interactive component of this chat, where I will teach everyone how to dance like a cuttlefish. And I really, really hope that people will be willing to join in, because I'm going to dance like a cuttlefish on camera. So, it's not like you'll be alone.
I totally think we should all do it, send our selfies in, and then John is going to pick a winner, and I don't know, they could
I'll gladly pick which ones are the best out of this.
Yes.
But
yes.
Yeah,
awesome.
Hunter, do you want to just quickly stop and start your stream, just see if we can get rid of this lag, because it's literally about half a frame a second at the moment. So.
Okay.
Sorry about this, folks. I swear this was working 2 minutes ago, and now I'm pretty sure it's not this end as well. I need some elevator music, don't I? Ah, there we go. That's much, much better. There we go. Carry on. Nothing happened. Okay, carry on.
Don't know what's wrong. So today, I think we're going to talk about all things queer. Let's start right at the beginning. How are cuttlefish queer creatures? Because, let's start with that.
Yeah, so, so actually, in addition to being like very strange creatures, if you're a human and then comparing things to, humans and mammals and land animals, they are really fascinating to me personally because I graduated from undergrad and decided I am burnt out. I'm never going back to school again. And I didn't want to see the side of a university ever again. And then I was working at a museum and learned about cuttlefish and just couldn't stop being fascinated and was just like, gosh, I wish I could just spend like a few years studying these creatures. Is there anything that would let me do that? Oh yeah, that's what academia is supposed to be for. But then because I had this like topic of interest that I was really, really keen and willing to go back into, this environment that I had found so toxic and so traumatizing before, I realized, you know what, if I'm going to go back to academia, I'm going to be very clear about what are my terms, what are my boundaries. And that also meant like figuring out for myself, okay, if I'm going to do this, like where, what do I believe is truly an okay way to do science, an okay way for me to be, like, how comfortable am I taking down that compartment of, oh yes, I have to be professional in front of these people and I have to hide away certain parts of my life. And the kind of science that I wanted to do is collaborative enough and intense enough where I realized I can't have this compartmentalization. So I need to find people with whom I can really be myself and I really do feel like they see me. And I feel so lucky that I found this group of people, and that's the lab research group that I stayed with and I just graduated from. And actually, I think, very in contrast to a lot of student advisor relationships, I also feel very lucky that I feel so close to this group of people that I just spent the 6 years working with, that even though we're all leaving academia in some way and we're trying to find other spaces in order to do this kind of collaborative lifelong learning, we want to do it with each other. And so I feel really grateful that and I feel so lucky that my experience was finding a group of people that I work really well with, and we got to spend these 6 years building up to going off into the world together, as opposed to having to endure, a PhD's worth of time with these people and then being like, oh, thank God, I'm like not ever going to see these people again. Actually, I'm really grateful that we're all like, no, we really want to continue working with each other and we really care about seeing each other as full people in order to do really cool science together. So yeah, sort of.
If you wouldn't have found your crowd, you also probably wouldn't have gone into or stayed in academia, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was very strict with myself that if I don't find the perfect situation, I'm not going to bother.
How do you know when you found your crowd? How did you? Well, what? Because I same for me, absolutely. How did you know you were in the right place?
So okay, funny story. When I was encouraged to apply to the program that I eventually got into by there was an undergrad department advisor who kind of became like my second mom. And she knew that I was tired of Boston winters and that I wanted a sort of, more unconventional learning experience. And so she found this program at the Champalimod Center for the Unknown. And she was like, hey, it's in Portugal, it's warm, and also like these folks really seem interested in trying out something new. And when I after I applied, I got invited to go there for an interview. And when I landed, I was like, oh, Portugal, yeah, it's a foreign country, different language. I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out. And I like landed at the airport, realized I had no way of figuring out like the public transportation. And so I just like went to one of the tourist like info spots, grabbed a map, and I showed the address of the person hosting me. And I said, "Can you?" And I pointed to the map, and I was like, "Can you just like point to where this is?" And so then, and also I had no data, no mobile anything, because I'm an American and I had a CDMA phone instead of a SIM card. So I, completely without any of the usual tools. So I used this paper map and I just walked from the airport to my host's apartment, which was like an hour and a half walk. And, but turns out, so the person who was randomly assigned to host me is actually the person whose company I'll be joining now that I've graduated. And he was a former student of my former advisor. And literally, as soon as I met him and his wife, and we just started talking, it was like, not only did we have very, similar ideas and hopes and goals for learning and for research and for science, but also we all loved cats, and we all still love cats. We love anime. We started talking about, science fiction, and just everything was pinging all at once. And I was like, oh my God, like, these people they already feel like friends, and they already feel like people, like, I'm so glad that I'm staying with them, and they already feel like people that I can really like deeply trust. And I think the thing that really made me realize that I had found the right people when it came to my advisor. So first of all, he gave his presentation on like what he's all the faculty gave like a presentation on about what they're about and like how they run their lab and what their philosophy is. And Adam's philosophy was like, well, I think we should just try new things, and we should open up all the black boxes. Nothing should be magical. If someone wants to figure out what's going on inside of this black box, it should be possible. And if you want to do something totally wild and crazy, that should also be possible. That's what a PhD is about. And then I also was sort of in this weird situation where I had spent like the year and a half previous to applying to PhD programs, I had spent that time co-writing an original musical. And, I was like mostly unemployed during that time, and this was definitely a labor of love. And we were pitching it to the MIT Community Theater, musical theater group, to see if we could get it picked to become a full production. And it's one of those things where it's like, how do I ask if I can defer my PhD in order to work on a musical? And when I brought this up to Adam, he was like, oh yeah, no, you should totally do the musical and then come do awesome science with me. And I was like, okay, all right, this is the guy. So yeah, I think Sorry, go ahead.
There is something really queer about like when you know what it feels like to have your crowd, when you know what it feels like to fit in, you just don't compromise. You don't go back into the closet and try and same thing very much true for me. The moment I knew I have a home of people who allow me to think the way I want to think, there is no more doubt in what you're doing. And yes,
yeah.
And if it's a place that says no, you shouldn't make a musical, you should be doing science, well then probably it's not the right place for it. And I'm, thank God, in a position where I could say, well then screw you, I'm going to defer or figure out what I do. Other people, need the money, need the job, and
yeah.
What's the musical about?
Oh,
tell us more about that.
So the musical is called Hack Punt Tool, and it is a story about a young freshman who shows up on campus and is so excited and discovers. So MIT has this aspect of student culture, which is hacking, but it's not computer hacking. It's like urban exploration, but also like looking at your environment with like trying to like look at your environment with a fresh perspective of like, okay, normally you just walk up these stairs and into the door, but what if, you know, like actually you could treat these stairs as a performance space, or, you know, there's this arch that you always walk under and you never look up. But what if somebody like put an art installation on the underside of the arch, and got you to look up and imagine, like, you know, an upside down world on the underside of that arch? And so some of the more famous ones, you know, get talked about a lot in admissions tours and things, and people. So the key thing here is hacks are anonymous because you're not doing it for fame. You're doing it to inspire this playful perspective with the world around you. And so it's really not about who's doing it. It's about nurturing that environment and that culture. And so the story is about, you know, a group of friends who decide to try to pull together a hack. And, you know, in the end, they don't even succeed, but that's kind of the point. That even when you fail, like, there's this whole journey that you took with your friends, and you went through ups and downs, you had fights, you've made up, like, and this whole emotional journey was actually the important part. And so that's what that was the story we wanted to tell. I'm really pleased with the thing that we created together, because even the act of creating the musical was this hugely collaborative thing where, yeah, like, we literally would stay up all night, like, listening to musicals for inspiration and talking about what is storytelling and, you know, what is the hero's journey and how can we make this character more relatable and more emotionally, like, you know, well-rounded and full, like a real person that you might actually meet. And so doing all of that, sharing all of that mind space with these friends that I was writing this with, it was such an incredible experience. And really, I think that had a huge impact on how I approach neuroscience, because, like, for me, theater and performance is about, you know, making an emotional connection through your movements with complete strangers. And this is exactly what we do when we study behavior of animals. Like, we don't, it's even a step further because we don't have a shared language per se. It's all through movement. But I am supposed to figure out what's going on in the mind of this creature. This is very similar to what, you know, a director has to do when they say, okay, like, I'm not quite getting that internal conflict that we know this character is having. It needs to show up more. And so thinking about it from that side of how to perform it really helped me when I was going through the exercise of, all right, here's an animal, it's doing something, and I need to make some educated guess as to what is going on inside of its head. So it was actually a huge part of sort of defining, like, how I approach neuroscience, and also specifically non-invasive work, because the depth of, you know, insight that I felt that the performing arts community could have on a person based on their movement. And I thought, you know what? There's absolutely no reason why we can't apply these principles to animals of other species. We can learn so much without having to cut them open. And yes, there is really cool, interesting, fascinating things that we can learn by cutting people open. I mean, you know, there are a lot of medical conditions that wouldn't be possible to address if we weren't willing to do invasive surgery. But also there's a huge amount of information and insight and wisdom and knowledge that gets, you know, lost if we don't consider really carefully what can we learn from non-invasive work. So yeah, sorry, that's one of my soapboxes. So
it's amazing, and you totally, in that sense, hacked your own brain as, like, the space that you reinvented, like, get a new perspective on. You know, you don't need stairs to, you know, what could stairs be? No, what could, I don't know, research be? You hacked the whole uni. I don't know. It's like this really cool meta hack. And it's really fun you talk so much about dance, because dance plays a huge role in my research. I don't want to talk about that, but there is this. Have you heard about Nature's Dance, your PhD?
Yes, I have. And if I hadn't been so overwhelmed by everything in the last year, like I'm sure everyone has been, like it was definitely in the plan to do the Dance Your PhD competition because I literally have a cuttlefish dance.
I think we need to explain first what it is. So for the audience, if anybody who wants a Nature publication, you can get one by dancing your PhD, and I think you get even $7,000 for it, or $10,000 if you're the winner.
Yeah.
And have you seen many of the videos?
I have. I love them. Like some of them are incredibly well done.
So I started looking at them back in 2006 or 16. When they started running this thing, and then they were really, really boring. There was just like somebody, oh, I'm a protein, quack, quack, quack. Oh, I'm an enzyme, quack, quack. And they came, and then they tore their clothes off, and now, oh, look, now we're both green. And we're going back into our corner. And I thought, this, like, oh my God, this is... But because it was clear that there, I thought, they don't take dance serious. They think dance is just one way to make figures animated with their bodies, but dance is really, really powerful. Here's like a really cool story. So one of the judges of Dance Your PhD is a cancer biologist, and he, as the contest evolved, realized that people who take these dances, I don't want to say more seriously because I think everybody did in their own way, but people who put a lot more conceptual effort into them, like what he realizes, seeing all these people be the molecules, move as molecules, kind of helped him rethink about these very, very violent molecular processes. Under the microscope or on the whiteboard, you've got these two molecules. The proton goes over there, and off you get a new thing. But at the atomic level, subatomic level, they are really, really violent processes. And he realized that through watching people dance molecules, he completely rethought what happens in these cells, and said he got a whole new appreciation and better understanding of cancer cell biology, to the extent of, and here's the amazing part, that he now, for many cases, prefers to have dancers simulate or rapid test molecular processes rather than computers, because the computers take so much time. They're hypercomputers. It takes them very long to get a slot in the computer. So for the really quick rapid testing, he actually just dances in cancer biology. He's got this paper called, I think, Dance Plus Body Storming Equals something else.
Oh my God, this is so
but
cool.
It's just so there is a cancer biologist out there who uses dance as a research method, and
fantastic.
I think it shows that there is a lot of it's joyful, it's fun to do these really outlandish experiments, but they bring back so much value. They bring new perspectives and they bring new ways of doing stuff, and they can teach us a lot. So I want to go quickly to chat. We got loads of really cool fun. Well, a lot of puns, really. We would love a teaser from the songs. That totally needs to happen. We've got Cuttletastrophe, Cattlefish. They're just great puns. Genus of Damn Cow. Wait, is the interpretive dance just a Viva running away scream? Yes, is the interpretive dance for a Viva just running away screaming? I think running towards screaming.
Okay, maybe I should
attitudes.
Maybe I should just go ahead and share the dance instead of just teasing it.
Sure. Tell me what to do.
Okay, so actually, all right, I have a couple of helper models here, which I made out of cut acrylic. So okay, so I'm just gonna really briefly give you an overview of the main phases of cuttlefish hunting. So when a cuttlefish is just hanging out, it's got 8 arms and 2 tentacles, and the arms are just hanging out in front of its mouth. So actually, all right, already we're gonna start with this. So everybody, hold up your hands. And your fingers are your cuttlefish arms, and your thumbs are the tentacles. And you're going to fold the fingers over your thumbs, and you're just going to tuck your cuttlefish arms in front of your mouth. So this is what a cuttlefish is like when it's just like hanging out in the ocean. So this is the first step. Then when the cuttlefish sees something that might be food, the two middle arms, so your index fingers, they're going to curl up, okay? And so this is yeah, exactly. This is the behavior that says, "Oh, I think there is food somewhere. I believe I see food." Okay? So that's called attention. Then the next phase, the cuttlefish sort of makes this like barrel with the next four arms. This is going to take a little bit of like finger ninjaing. And then the last two arms kind of splay out like a tripod. So you've got here the two middle arms, and then you're going to point the next four fingers forward, and then your pinkies are going to splay out to the side, okay? So it's like this tripod. Yes, perfect, Hunter. Excellent. All right, so...
Yeah, that's how I walk about every day, all the time.
Aiming
In
towards
normal
food,
position.
right? That's
Yeah.
Yes.
So then now the cuttlefish is going to get closer and closer and closer. And while it's doing that, our tentacles, in our cases, our thumbs, are slowly being pushed out in between these fingers. And then when it's close enough, it's going to throw the tentacles at the prey or the food or whatever it is. And the ends are sticky. And hopefully they will stick onto the food and it'll draw it back towards its mouth. So that's basically the sequence, okay? So I'm going to say...
Usually my fingers are sticky after I've got to the food. Also, I need to point out here that, Carl reckons the interpretive dance is a fantastic way of pulling apart a problem, and he's saying he's taking it to the factory.
Yes.
and Sessifet says, my arthritic fingers. Ah!
It's okay. Cuttlefish also, they come in all shapes and sizes, and the cuttlefish I was working with, they were 15 months old out of an 18-month life expectancy. So I was working with some adorable geriatric cuddles. All right, so the song is, I'm going to say, are you ready to hunt? And obviously the answer will be yes. Then I'll say, then middle arms up. Then we'll go sneak, 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 stretch, 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 stretch. Now prepare the tentacles. Make a tripod and throw. Did you catch or miss? Oh, that's the thing I forgot. Okay, so the thing that I studied, that I did some like real science on, is the cuttlefish display a very special body pattern when they throw their tentacles. And this particular body pattern does not show up in any other part of their behavior. It only shows up after they've thrown their tentacles. And I did a bunch of math to show that when they catch food, this special tentacle shot pattern stays for a really long time, like up to several seconds. But if they throw their tentacles and they miss, then the tentacle shot pattern disappears very quickly, on average after half a second. So it'll briefly flash this special pattern and then it'll go away. And so that's why the last line of the song is, the pattern will let you know. Yeah. And actually, if people want to see some videos, we can switch to the slides that I made and just skip directly to the slide that has the videos, and I can talk over that a little bit as well.
Well,
Okay, yeah. So
that should be us.
Yeah. Okay,
awesome!
So...
Oh my god, the tech is so much our friend today. I'm pleased.
you say that, but your cameras are frozen. So...
Oh no!
What have you done?
For me, it seems to be working.
What did you do?
It's okay. In the meantime, we could just go to the video, and I mean, you don't really need to see like my face while I talk over a video.
Right, it might catch up again in a moment. There we go. Right, we've caught up. So, where do you want me to
Oh,
go?
perfect. Yes, so next, let's see if I can pull up the slides on my thing. It should be slide number 11.
11.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Awesome.
So these are videos of my cuttlefish. And yeah, so it's this like really fractalated, like high contrast. It almost looks like there's suddenly a checkerboard appearing on their bodies. And you can see, so cuttlefish use active camouflage. They can change their appearance. They can change color, texture, shape at the speed of an action potential because it's all controlled by their nervous system. But so you can see that they're starting out in all kinds of different patterns, but then they always, as soon as they shoot out their tentacles, they get that special tentacle shot pattern. And if we go to the next slide, we'll be able to watch this tentacle shot pattern happening slightly more slow motion. Okay, so my advisor Adam has quite a knack for naming things, and so he came up with the cuddle shuttle. And so, yeah,
I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I was told that it's not serious enough for an academic paper, but whatever.
No,
I will always call it.
Clearly, never seen any of the computer science projects I've been part of. So.
Yeah. Okay. So here's our hunter, the cuttlefish. And I don't know if you guys caught the text, but on one side is an area where they can hide because that makes them feel safe. And that's how we help them get used to the testing arena. Mm-hmm. And then on the opposite side from home base, as I called it, is what I called a robotic prey, which is fancy talk for a bit of defrosted cocktail shrimp on the end of a plastic skewer controlled by like a hobby motor. And an Arduino board that, like, oh my god, this is like my first major Arduino project, and it was such a hilarious disaster, but it was a very good learning experience. So here we go, phase 1 attention. That's when the middle arms have gone up. It's moving in, and you're gonna see the tentacles push out, and then suddenly they move very quickly. So it's almost like they were aiming, and then they toss it. And in that moment, I decided to name that moment the tentacles go ballistic moment because they're literally going ballistic, but also ballistic's a funny word. So, so then now we're zoomed in and slowed down on exactly what the cuttlefish is doing. And if you watch carefully, you're going to see that tentacle shot pattern appear as soon as, here we go, tentacles go ballistic. And then the body pattern starts to get that high contrast fractalated even before the food gets back to its mouth. And so, this time it caught it. So it lasted for quite a while. And and then I think the rest of this. Oh yeah, so this is a nice view because this is all of the tentacle shots that ended in a catch, all by the same animal. So you can see the variety of body patterns that it has before it shoots, but then after, it all kind of converges to this tentacle shot pattern. So yeah, these videos were very satisfying once I finally made them, because actually when I was collecting the data, this was back in 2015, and then in 2016 I spent almost the whole year trying to figure out, is there a computer algorithm or machine learning thing that can track the cuttlefish for me? And it's like, oh wait, this animal evolved for millions of years to evade visual detection. No, there's nothing that will do this for me. So I had to do it all manually. And then the rest of this video is just talking about all of the pain that we had trying to quantify it, because, when you see it, it's like, well, duh, there's something there, I can see it. But of course, it's like, okay, I have to put numbers to it in order for it to be real science. And so this was nice. So then let's see.
We have a question from chat here about this. So.
We have loads of questions, but I hate to interrupt you. But
no, go for it. Interrupt me.
So, is the pattern a conscious decision, or what do you think? Do we have any guesses? And why do they do that? What are they trying to tell when they, are they showing off, or?
Yeah, so actually, if you go to the next slide, It's okay, just cut off this video and go to the next slide. Yeah, so this is our current sort of model for what's going on, which is the cuttlefish use camouflage both to hide from things that might eat them and to sneak up on their prey. And then something that's been noticed when cuttlefish are hunting like really challenging prey, like crabs, they will put on, they literally look like an LED screen, just like flashing and strobing up and down their body. And that one is, it feels pretty clear that what they're trying to do is like mesmerize or stun the prey. But then, yeah, there was this question of, okay, why are they so visually bold and striking after they've shot their tentacles? They're handling their food, they're really vulnerable, they're highly distracted. And, you know, like that might be a great moment for a predator to decide, I'm going to try and eat this cuttlefish. But this pattern has been observed not only in wild animals, but also in laboratory animals who have no experience with predators. And so the thought is that it's just a very old, like deeply ingrained strategy for, okay, I am vulnerable, but if I can do something that makes myself look really bold and I can make the predators just hesitate for a second, that will give me another second to stop being distracted by my food and run away. So that's our current best guess. It doesn't seem to be like consciously controlled, because it just always happens, even when it might not be advantageous. But I don't know of anyone who's like done, you know, like a real study into, and I'm trying to think like off the top of my head, how would I, you know, figure out whether it's conscious or consciously controlled or not. That would be pretty tough, especially given that the dialogue around conscious control and free will is quite fraught in scientific circles. So there would be a lot of sort of philosophical groundwork to first be done to really establish a shared language of what do we mean by conscious control. It is controlled by their nervous system, and the neurons that are, you know, physically entangled around the structures in their skin that control the color of their skin, the bodies of those neurons are in their central nervous system. So you can say that it's controlled by their brain. But, you know, one tiny step at a time is how these things go. So this is my tiny contribution, which is I made up the term tentacles go ballistic and tentacle shot pattern. And I gave some math to show that it lasts when they catch it and disappears quickly when they miss it. So that's my contribution to the cuttlefish side of things.
This is so amazing, and I love the presentation and also the dance, and I can totally picture you and your Viva making the externals do the... Did you make them do that?
I did not, because there was a lot that I had to get through, and I only had 25 minutes, actually, because it was more of an American style, like, you know, thesis presentation, and then they ask you questions for like hours afterwards. So I did not, in fact, get my examiners to do the dance, but yeah, I get everyone else to do the dance.
I hope everybody did the dance as well at home. Do cuttlefish patterns ever express their moods, or is it only camouflage or signaling? Do cuttlefish have moods? I think that second question is fascinating, especially.
Yeah, so my guess is probably, so here's a couple of things. One is, so they have their most dramatic body patterns when they are in mating season, and so that's been sort of the most well-researched aspect of their body patterns. And it's clear that, you know, when they are being more aggressive, there are particular body patterns that they put on for being more aggressive, and when they're trying to be more docile. Actually, okay, so cuttlefish have the best mating behavior ever. So the big males will put on bold displays and they'll wrestle each other, and there's all kinds of, like, you know, you can make all kinds of metaphors to machismo and all this. But then the smaller males, what they do is they will cross-dress. They will make themselves look like females, and they'll sneak past the wrestling males and just be like, oh, it's all right, I'm just gonna have a chat with my girlfriend, and then they'll sneakily mate and they'll go away. And somebody did the genetic study to see, because so cuttlefish females have two like levels of choice. The first one is like the scientific language is the male has a special arm with which he extends a sperm packet to the female, and then the female receives the sperm packet and she has little pouches under each arm, so 8 pouches in which to store these sperm packets, and then she fertilizes, like sprinkles the sperm over her eggs. So that's the second level of choice, which is which sperm packet she chooses first to use up the most of in order to fertilize the eggs. And what they found was that not only do the cross-dressing males have a better chance in that first step of actually handing over the packet, but also the females favor the cross-dressing males when they are choosing which sperm packet to hand fertilize. Because think about it, they survive by camouflage. And if a cuttlefish is able to trick its own species into thinking that it is not the gender that they need to be worried about, then that's kind of a nod to like, oh yeah, you're really good with your camouflage. I want that for my babies. So I absolutely love this about cuttlefish. Yeah.
This is absolutely fascinating. It reminds me of like Richard Feynman, who was doing research on quantum states of electrons, and he was disgusted that these protons would change gender and in certain circumstances, and he called them perverted states, etc., because they really didn't fit into his like neat way. This is how physics should work, and these are cross-dressing transgender particles, and I don't like them, etc.
I mean, he's missing out.
Absolutely. He's threatened by quantum states. Talk about fragile masculinity. I read that a small male cuttlefish can even make himself look like a female down one side and a male down the other when there's a female on one side and a big male on the other. That I've never heard of. Wow.
Talk about two-spirited, right?
I need to spend more time thinking about cuttlefish. Oh my god. I want to know if Bentley is in the chat. But yeah, what else? Which other questions have I overlooked? Where did they come from? Was there a long enough time where those bold pattern skulls indicated predator or bad news, and it's a holdover from history, or right now and are? How do you even prove holdovers from history? Are there any other patterns that one or all cuttlefish seem to use? I think that's really interesting. Or are all the rest just down to particular circumstances? The whole concept of gender and sex in animals is wild, and my non-binary self loves it so much. Shout out.
Yes.
And he is a relevant comic. Yes, I threw lots of questions at you.
So I will say, cuttlefish research is a very young field. So anybody who is interested, get on the bandwagon. It's really fun. The community is still like nice and small, and everyone's super friendly because it's hard to do this research, and everyone's super encouraging. And I have had so many positive experiences being fascinated by these creatures. And most of the researchers, because it's not where like the big money's at, so everyone doing cuttlefish and cephalopod research, they're really there because they're just like, OMG, I just love cephalopods so much. So you just have a bunch of like fangirls, fanboys, fan NBs, fan whatever, being like, cephalopods, this is amazing. So it's a very wholesome and adorable community.
The cephalopod crew.
Oh yeah. Wait, there was something else that I was gonna mention. It's totally flown out of my head.
Yeah.
No, go for it. I was just gonna I was just gonna jump to another topic because I couldn't remember what I was
Okay, maybe because we're just on the topic, but do you think that non-binary people and any trans person are having an easier time to just think flexibly about cuttlefish genders and the plurality? Do you think it's easier for them to like see the cuttlefish as like what they want to be rather than impose? Because to some extent we even talk about gender in plants, whilst really it doesn't make any sense, but we project these categories because they're so ingrained in our language, how we see the world. Is there, do you think that trans people, non-binary people are better at telling stories about cuttlefish?
Maybe. I mean, because with cuttlefish, like regardless of what sex they are, their genitals are all internal. So it's really funny. You cannot sex them just by looking at them, which is not true of all animal species. And so unless you go through the effort of sexing them, you kind of have to just pick or choose. And what I decided to do was I was like, great, they're all going to be they them. And this for me was it was something that like I already had practice doing, and I had also gone through a phase where I was sort of a grammar pedant for a while, so I was like, well, I want to be referred to as it. And it was very difficult for a lot of people, especially, people who were close to me, and they said, oh, I know I want to honor your choice, but it's very difficult because it feels like I'm dehumanizing you. And so I got over my grammar, pedant phase and went, okay, fine, they, them is okay. But I was always calling them my cuttlefish it, and I did give them names because I don't mind naming my creatures because I'm not planning on cutting them open, so why not? I'm happy to develop an emotional connection to them because I feel like it's important. And it was really funny because sometimes people, based on the names that I gave them, would gender my cuttlefish, and I would be like, well, actually, I have no idea if Dora is a girl or not. And I have no idea if old Tom is a boy or not. And it was a nice opening to, to have that conversation, to be like, yeah, by the way, this, gender is just something we superimpose, and, we don't have to make any assumptions. We can just, it does already exist. We can give them gender neutral pronouns, and that's fine. And I could tell that there were, some scientists who I would say this to, and they'd be like, oh my God, thank you. I never thought I'd be able to talk about this in this context. And then there were also some scientists who were just like totally like, what is this? This is a whole new world.
Like, oh my God, we don't need to project gender on everything. Wow, my mind is blown. Like, oh my God, you've lived under a rock and you need more rainbow friends. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just so happy we got to that. Like, that is the kind of queerness and queer thinking that, if you have an inclusive space, you get new ideas. And these are not just, we are diverse because we want brown and colorful people on our posters. No, with a diverse set of people doing the research, you will actually get a diverse set of epistemologies, ideas, and ways of doing things. Yay.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's just already there's this like fear of over anthropomorphizing, when you're doing science. And actually, I didn't think about it until this moment of like, yeah, when we like superimpose gender on like objects, I'm like, how is that not over anthropomorphizing? Like, stop being a hypocrite with your double standards here. Just because I want to, believe that cuttlefish can have, internal emotional states, because I believe that they can have a rich internal experience that I might be able to connect to, like, that doesn't mean I'm over anthropomorphizing. I'm just trying to understand this creature. And if I really believe in this like tenet of biology, which is everything comes from DNA, then, if I'm having a rich internal mental experience, like, it all came from the same few proteins. Like, there's no reason for me to think that some other configuration of these proteins cannot possibly have, the as rich of an internal experience as I can.
And you say we're like told not to over-anthropomorphize our creatures, but we're quite scientificize them. If it's not quantifiable, then it doesn't count and it doesn't belong here.
Yeah.
But don't you dare get attached to them or name them. That's unscientific. I want to take this in so many directions. There are really cool questions from the audience, but we haven't talked at all about the comic books yet, which is a huge part of your practice. So
Sorry, I got distracted by all the stuff happening on the stream. Yes.
Well,
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. I got a cat on me. It made things very difficult.
Oh, cat.
Also, Hunter, what are you doing to your stream, man?
is it terrible? Oh wait,
It just went
what's going?
offline.
Oh,
What have you done? There we go. We're back.
Okay.
oh, I don't know what's going on.
One day we'll
We
get
are
you decent
haunted.
internet and it'll be fine.
You need to send me some over. Oh no, Brexit. Yeah.
So one thing while there's a pause in the conversation, I'm more than happy for the conversation to carry on if you want to talk about more things, because I know you have more topics that you were planning to cover here. So we can run into the next slot, because the next slot runs on till midnight. We have tons of time for that, so feel free to carry on.
Cool. Excellent.
Do your cuttlefish recognize you? That's a question I want to and like recognize you.
So, I mean, I would like to think so, because so there was one other person who was doing the daily care of the cuttlefish, and so her name's Kendra. She mentioned that, sometimes when I come in, they're usually clustered on this side of the home tanks, and so I do this and this and da 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 da, and sorry, and so that was part, as part of my training for, how to take care of them. I was sort of taking into account what their daily rhythms are and their habits. And as I was, updating Kendra on, how are the cuttlefish behaving, and how are they, where are they in their tanks and stuff, I would notice that they would they would often be sort of on the further side of the tanks, like away from the entrance, when I first started working with them. But then I was coming in regularly, and there was sort of this like rhythm to how I was interacting with them. And I did start to notice that after a while, they would be on the closer side of the tanks, and like more active earlier on when I'm interacting with them. And then of course, sometimes there are visitors and people showing up, and then they would act very differently. And so I like to think that the shift in their behavior is because I'm someone recognizable to them that is comfortable and familiar. And then the mere fact that they showed different behavior simply because somebody new showed up, that makes me feel like, yeah, I think they can recognize at least, like gross differences. And I'm also pretty sure that they can see like out of the water, because before we put them into the experimental tank, we would kind of train them to hunt this dead prey, because they're a bit fussy. They really like live prey, which makes sense. It's fresh food. But we would train them by putting the defrosted cocktail shrimp onto a skewer and like wiggling it in front of them. And after a while, I was like, oh, I wonder if they could catch it if I wiggled it above the water surface. And they totally did. And they were pretty accurate about it too. So I think they have good enough vision, and they were aware enough. And remember, these guys were really, really old, given their life expectancy. So if I were working with cuttlefish in their prime, that had been the plan, to follow up with younger cuttlefish. And for a variety of logistical reasons, it did not happen. But in the future, and if anybody else wants to do it, I'll send you all of my all of my protocols and all of my data. I am all about replicating experiments.
It's important. It's a whole different discussion. Yes, replication studies are worthy. We don't need to reinvent the wheel every single time. I want a PhD that just replicates what somebody else did and checked, did this really happen? Different story.
Yes.
Comic books.
Yes.
You are a vigilant intergalactic roustabout scholar. Tell us more.
Okay,
going back
so
to the green screen.
Yeah, so the acronym VERSE, Vigilante Intergalactic Roustabout Scholar, this actually came about because I was basically having like a identity crisis. I was like, I don't know if I want to call myself a neuroscientist. There seems to be a lot of neuroscientists that I just think are you know, elitist, pompous, full of shit and stick up their butts kind of people? Do I really want to be associated with this group? And so I was like, well, what do I actually like? What am I actually trying to do here? And I was like, okay, I want to subvert the current like hierarchies and incentive systems, and I want us to question the structures that we have around us. So that kind of makes me a vigilante. I want to be able to identify and feel like I have a community that identifies as citizens of Earth, as opposed to citizens of, you know, a particular country, or, you know, something that feels more exclusive than just like, I really want to embrace our like sort of galactic cosmic identity. So that was the intergalactic. Roustabout is a term that describes like the, you know, the folks in the circus who are silly and they clown around while the really like serious glamorous act is getting ready, and they get the audience primed, they make jokes, they get you feeling comfortable, and you know, like, you know, they build up the anticipation. And then they're also, you know, sort of the stereotype also includes the people who, you know, they swing the sledgehammers in order to build the tent, and they build the stage, and they create the world of the circus. And so I wanted to include this idea of somebody who you know, engages in the interactive side of things and in the hands-on side of things, who's not, you know, not afraid to sweat and get dirty and to get really like in the thick of things. So that's Roustabout. And then Scholar, because I do, you know, I do want there to be this component that emphasizes the learning and the scholarship and the rigor and the careful thinking and the mindfulness. And so then so then I had this sort of like beautiful dream of a future where bands of verses fly from planet to planet on ships run by heart songs. So you'd have to have a band, and they'd have to play music in order for the ship to go. And what they would do is they would raid and pillage libraries and universities and put on circus shows about what they find inside. And it was all about breaking down the ivory tower, and it was this beautiful like sci-fi metaphor. And then and I've been kind of like working on this on the side and kind of joking to Adam about how like, you know, like, you know, academic papers, they're so dry and boring and exclusive, and it's just not like, you know, I want there to be a more fun, exciting way to communicate science. Can we do that? And sort of that conversation led to me like constantly threatening to make a graphic novel of my thesis. And finally, Adam.
Sorry, which slide do you want?
Yes. So it will be slide. Let's go to slide 31.
31.
That's the beginning of the. Yeah. Sorry, I really got carried away and I made way too many slides.
No.
There we go.
It's amazing.
Okay. So yeah, this is the cover of the first verse. And I just want to clarify. I'm a comic book author, not the artist. I had the amazing privilege of collaborating with 17 artists who all contributed their work to the first verse. And yeah, this is basically Adam calling my bluff and being like, oh yeah, you want to make a graphic novel of your thesis? Here, have some money from my lab budget.
Amazing.
Which actually, if you check out the link below, you can see the full story. There was some politics. People thought a graphic novel was not worthy of being funded by an academic research group's lab fund. And so we turned to Kickstarter and raised more money than my initial budget, so that we could pay our artists in full and print everything in color and ship it out. If you go to the next slide for me, the graphic novel is a sci-fi story that incorporates a neuroscience primer. So I've been teaching for the same summer camp in North Carolina for 10 years. And I, over that time, started teaching neuroscience classes. And I thought, you know what, like, some of the ways that I'm able to put things together, because I'm thinking about how do I teach it to children, like I would share my notes with my other PhD students in my cohort, and they'd be like, oh, nice, like that was a really nice way of putting it together. And I'm thinking, yeah, that came out of a conversation with a bunch of 10-year-olds. So I wanted to put everything that I had learned into this format where it's like, look, here is a nice, simple, graphical way of just giving you the basics, just the absolute basics that I think everyone should know, because everyone has a nervous system, and knowledge about our bodies has a huge impact on how we live our lives and how we make decisions and how we organize ourselves. So next slide, please.
Isn't it wonderful to have like a magician in the background who just does
yes, yeah, I feel like a really fancy person being able to be like, next slide, please. So all these diagrams are done by different artists, and I really love the variety of artistic styles, and also like these are some really incredibly talented humans, like amazing work that they all pulled together such that we could make this graphic novel on a time scale that would have been absolutely impossible for me to do alone. So next slide, please.
It looked absolutely stunning, and
yeah. So this panel on the left here is sort of the opening. I wanted to have dream sequences to sort of offset the, very hard sci-fi and these scientific diagrams, but I also wanted to get at the emotional aspect of what I'm trying to do here. And the thing that I felt like, and it's become like so clear now with the pandemic and with lockdown, it just felt like we were taking so many things for granted. And so the story is set in a future after a climate apocalypse has happened. And the idea of simply being able to go outside without a shit ton of gear, to be able to see the sky, feel the sun, breathe the air, drink, the water, and not be afraid of being poisoned. Like, for this to be this like faraway dream that people now long for. And, it's like, once upon a time, long, long ago, we were free. And so this kind of became sort of the recurring theme of, what does it mean to be free? Because for me, I realized having a knowledge about my nervous system helps me be free, because I can make certain decisions about, what I expose myself to, and, what is this marketing ad doing to me? I have some inkling of what might be going on, and I have this sense of I'm not a robot that can be controlled by it. I can choose certain things. And this is a sense of agency that I'm getting from my scientific background. And so this I think is really important for people who want to live in a society that, if we want to call it democratic, if we want to call it free, then we need to have, a really good education in place so that people are knowledgeable enough to be free. And so then on the panel on the right, it again, just getting you into this mood of like, someone goes, oh my God, is this real cheese? And the person serving says, oh, good heavens, no, but it's very convincing. So next slide, please.
Is that Captain Picard and Guinan at the party, by the way?
Very sort of open-ended with the instructions to the artist. So that previous image was by Matteo Farinella, who is also a neuroscientist and an illustrator. And it was so wonderful working with him, because he had both of these perspectives and really was like very knowledgeable on how to translate neuroscience information into a visual story. And then so here on the left, we have, this one is by an artist based in Berlin, Miguel, who he was so patient and was so wonderful about helping me understand like the power of showing things without having a bunch of exposition and dialogue crowding in. And this page used to be full of so much more information than it was. And in fact, it's still probably way more than he would have liked. And then again, like the dialogue on the panel on the right, this one was illustrated by Graham Marema, and and again, yeah, just I was learning to really cut things down so that I could let the art speak for itself. Next slide, please. And so yeah, the idea was that in the future, the societies that survive/develop are the ones that are able to integrate neuroscience into their daily lives. So this was sort of my yeah, it was like my fantasy version of, okay, here's this thing, field neuroscience, that I'm like, fighting to get recognition for. And I'm like, we really need to develop this. What would it be like in a future where it's so well developed that, in a future where so much catastrophe has happened and we've lost so much knowledge that, our current time is considered the ancient times. And yet the societies have been able to retain a daily practice, a living practice of understanding nervous systems, because one of the technologies that survived is a technology that is able to utilize the electric ionic activity of nervous systems in order to change the properties of fabric and of cloth and of materials. So this was highly inspired by cuttlefish skin. And yeah, so it's like, so one of the societies, so on the left you see, or actually both of these kind of are examples of the first society, which I called the Biononymous. And so the idea was, yes, I acknowledge that there's probably going to be some sort of centralized, very heavy on surveillance kind of government, or governing structure that exists. So that's the world government in my graphic novel. And the Biononymous have evolved from a group of people who cared very much about privacy and being able to have a space that is not surveilled. And so what they end up doing is they go kind of down this sort of religious cult direction, where they wear robes that completely cover them and protect them from surveillance technology. So when they go out into the open, they are completely veiled and covered. And, they've now advanced this. So the future technology that I came up with is called synth. And it's basically, I took the idea of sourdough yeast, where it's just yeast, you feed it some flour and some water, and it creates this amazing thing called bread. And so I thought, okay, what if instead of eating flour and water, this yeast biofactory eats water and sand, and it uses silica to create an interface between biological and electronic components, and it's able to make that translation between wet and dry hardware. And so based on their neural activity, they're able to adjust this cloth that they wear. So if you go to the next slide, I can't remember exactly what I put next. Okay, yeah, so we have a visual example of the world government here on the left. This was done by the amazing Gideon Gert.
It's a beautiful illustration, absolutely stunning.
Yeah, he also did the cover art. And then on the right is, so one of the characters from the Biononymous meets a character from another society called the Automata. And the Automata took a completely different approach. So the Biononymous is totally non-invasive, whereas the Automata, what they decided to do was to splice their bodies with the synth, such that their skin now directly becomes the thing that they, just like cuttlefish, they can actually modify their cells to give them protection from, a sun that is shining through an atmosphere that cannot filter harmful radiations for them. So if you look at how an embryo develops, the layer of cells at the very, very earliest stages that your nervous system comes from, your skin also develops from that same layer of cells. And so I imagined okay, if they need to be able to breathe when they are not in their protective bubbles, then they can modify the skin around their nose and their mouth such that they can filter out heavily polluted air. And so there's these two very different directions of how to utilize technology in order to be free And that was, I wanted to explore this, and also to make the point of, there's no technology that is inherently good or evil. And so I don't want to say any of these directions are better or worse than the other. That, these two societies developed in these two different directions, but there are ways to use these technological directions for both good and for evil. So could we go to the next slide, please? And then sort of lastly, the thing that I had the least amount of visibility, explicit visibility in the graphic novel, that was mostly just me doing world building behind the scenes, was that in the Biononymous, children are not gendered, and nobody is gendered until they go through their rites of adulthood, and then they choose, this is the role that I wish to take, and this is this is how I wish to be addressed as an adult. And so all of the young characters are addressed as they, them, and it's just this very, on the panel on the right, there's the older character refers to the younger character as they, them, and that's really the only time where it comes out explicitly. But it was really important to me that if this society is so interested and invested in privacy, and if the whole point of being a Biononymous is that when you are outside of the privacy of your homes with your with your family and your loved ones, no one can tell even who you are. Maybe they can see your height, but the whole point is that you are not identifiable. Then I would expect that would permeate into other parts of their society as well. And then next slide, please. So then the automata, also I would, so there, the thing that I focused on there was slightly different, which was so this splicing thing, it's quite heavy on a body to figure out how to integrate a completely different DNA structure into itself from a biological standpoint. So I thought it's probably not something that people would be born with or given when they're still very young, but it would be something that it would be kind of like a puberty. I call it being reborn. And I know that I have felt in my own life, in a completely non-science fiction way, I do feel like I've gone through, multiple puberties where I felt there was this phase where I was changing so much, and the way that I was seeing the world was changing so much. And then the person that I kind of became at the end of it, the person that came out the other side, I would look back and be like, wow, that previous to this, phase, to this experience, that person was completely different. And in fact, it's almost I don't think I would have even liked that old me. I'm not sure if I met the old me now, I would get along with old me. And so I like this idea of not only having a chance to be reborn, and to that being your chance to choose, how do I fit into my society? How do I fit into my community? And what, purpose do I wish to serve? Because if we go to the next slide, what happens at the end of this ceremony, at the end of this ritual, is everyone is asked, what does it mean to be free? And that is the question that you're so everyone in the automata, in order to go through the rebirth process, they have to fast for 7 days inside of a cave, and then the whole clan appears to sort of celebrate this moment with them when they first get injected with synth. And then their body goes through a dance in order to integrate this new substance, this new life form. And then at the end of it, they are asked, what does it mean to be free? And that answer is supposed to be indicative of your first project or your first mission as a newly reborn member of your community. What is the thing you wish to do first in order to express what it means to be free for you? And so this is all just it's literally just these panels, one dream sequence and one quick flashback to this character's rebirth. But this was something that I also thought about a lot, that I feel we've lost these sort of rituals of, you have now you're now going to become like a empowered and empowered member of this community. You have a voice, and the expectations change for you. The expectations for a child are different from the expectations for an adult. And right now that transition is so muddy. And I'm a big fan of rituals, and I'm a big fan of especially community rituals where we all get together and we celebrate something and we say, you've reached this milestone, and we want you to know that in this moment you are seen, and in this moment we are here to support you and to hear what you have to say. And that's sort of what made me want to show this sequence. So okay, I've been talking for a long time now,
It's amazing. It's really, really amazing, and in many ways, it really draws back right to the beginning. When you said you go through many purities. I mean, that's if you find yourself in a place where you have to completely rebuild yourself from the ground up, which is a thing that some people have to go through more often than others. And you know, from the ground up, then you're very conscious about what you take on board and what not. And when you then find yourself in a place where you are seen, as you said it, you can't go back. There's no going back in the closet. And
exactly. You can't unborn your rebirth.
I think, that is perfect. And I almost want to, close there, because I think there's no, it's a beautiful way to phrase it. I want to get that as a tattoo now all over my front. No, you can't unborn your rebirth. Wow. Fun fact: my thesis is called "Send in the Clowns." So yes, it's uncanny how many things I echo with very firmly. And please chat. I'm the best, kind of overwhelmed, and all of that is amazing. Where can we buy your comic? I want 10 now.
Oh, actually, if you go to the link that you see at the bottom here, you can send me a donation to get a digital copy, or you can just be like, I would like a digital copy, and I'll just send it to you. And then I just finished sending physical copies to my Kickstarter backers, so I have created an interest form. And if there's enough interest, I'll go for another print run, just because printing the book, it's only cost effective if there's a certain number of books being printed. So yeah, if you keep scrolling, maybe I should, there we go. Interested in getting a copy of the first verse. So there's two options, the digital PDF or the printed book. And so, please, if you are interested in getting a printed book, fill out the interest form. And if there's enough of us, then I'll do another round of printing and send it out to everyone. And I would be really excited to do that. That would be really great.
I think every university, every careers fair, every school, and every neuroscience center needs a buttload of these mandatory reading. I'll definitely put it on my reading list for whatever I teach. It'll be on there. So we've had you 1.5 hours, and thank you so much. Yes, there have been some questions about your name. Names are important. Is there anything you want us to know about your name? And I prefix, I made sure that you're being called Doctor because all the bullshit with Dr. Biden is a non-starter. Normally, I avoid titles in every way, but no, it matters. This year...
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah. I was also like, Doctor, do I really want people to call me Doctor? But then I was like, actually, I've earned it. Yes, I want to be listed as Doctor. So my name, Danbee, in Korean means sweet rain. And that's the literal translation, but then idiomatically, it's the term that is used to refer to the first rain after a long dry period, so after a drought. And my mother claims that she's the first to use it as a name for a person. And so I like to say my mom is actually a hippie witch who gave me this delightful, wonderful name. So yeah, Danbee is my my birth name. But then the nickname Tauntaun, I also have a great deal of fondness for because when I got to MIT my first year, the Musical Theater Guild was doing Star Wars the Musical. And I thought, oh my God, yes, I am going to audition. And I through a series of word plays on my name and Star Wars references, and people being like, oh, but repeated syllables are also really cute, and you're like a cute little freshman, so we need to call you something that's repeated, Tauntaun. And so that's been my nickname for quite a while, and I really like, yes, like in the movies originally, it's this, kind of grubby creature who apparently smells awful. But I've had so many positive experiences associated with the nickname Tauntaun that I cannot help but love it. And yeah, I answer to both with equal joy. So yeah.
Your
Thank
name
you for
needs
asking.
to bring you joy. Your name needs to bring you joy. I very much empathize. Unless there are any burning question chats, I think otherwise I'm going to beg you to come back sometime soon. I can't wait to talk so much more. I definitely want to talk about quantification of patterns and how they need to be numerical, not all the things. Yes, thank you so much for giving us your time. I had the best Saturday in so long. It means the world to me.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
I give you all the hugs. I think the entire chat is going to be on board. feel hugged and warm from across everywhere, and yeah, I'm such a fan. Thank you so much for it. John, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm just here in awe at all of the work here. This is incredible. Again, thank you thank you, Hunter, for running the show, and thank you, Danbee, for coming in and talking about everything. We are going to have
for doing all the behind the scenes.
That's more than enough. I've got to point out now, Hunter, can you go back to your chat screen?
I am going back to my chat screen. Yes, sorry, I'm just looking at the pretty artwork. There we are, chat screen. Hello.
Here we go. Switch back. There. Oh, finally got the sync down. So, yes, again, thank you for coming on. I think, Hunter, we are going to have that sort of review one at some point or other where we get all the old guests back in for a big conversation.
I can't wait. I can't wait for all of this.
So the question there is, Danbee, would you come back again, either to talk separately to Hunter as a one-to-one or as part of a larger group to talk about these issues?
It would be my absolute pleasure. Yes, please.
Thank you very much for that. And thank you to the audience as well for your fantastic questions.
Yes.
I just want to echo that from Hunter as well. It's been really good to see so many people engaging with this.
And I tried so hard to keep my eyes on the question as well, and I know I still overlooked so many of them, but I promise I will get better at this.
You just need more screens. I mean, I'm running 3 right now, so...
Yeah, a third one needs to happen, and a fourth one on my phone.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I've already got the bracket. It's right here in front of me. So, right, okay. So, Hunter, do you want to close up the show, and then I will say what we're going to do next?
I think the most wonderful thing has been said already. Once you can't unborn yourself, once you've been reborn. I hope that was correct. No, you phrased it even better. I will look it up, actually. Yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah, Danbee, do you want to say the line? We can close it on that line.
Oh gosh, I'm also having trouble.
No pressure.
You can't. I unbirth being reborn. Sorry. It just happened off the cuff.
Yeah. Oh dear. Right, well, that I think is the show, I believe, Hunter.
Yes, thank you very much. This was brilliant. I'm going to go onto the thank you screen, and I'll see you very, very soon.
Yes, thank you so much again.
You are more than welcome. Right, so, as Hunter switches over to his thank you screen, switch over to here. So, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Next up is the support party, which will be happening in about 10 minutes. We're going to have a 10-minute break just to allow everybody to go and get a drink and stretch our legs. Primarily me, let's be honest. And then we'll be back with audience participation type games, lots of party things that you can engage in just by using a web browser. Do hang around for that. We will be back in about 10 minutes. I'll put some music on for you in the interim, and we will see you soon. Thank you very much, folks. Next week, we don't know who the guest is going to be at the moment for Tekken Tea, but it should be back, I believe. Hunter, do you want to say whether Tekken Tea is back next week?
We'll find somebody amazing, I have no doubt, and take it from there.
And if indeed you yourselves have any ideas for any shows, do get in touch with me or one of the mods. We are looking for more shows on the channel as well. If you have any ideas at all, just let us know. The link in the Discord has been pasted a couple of times in chat. If you want to grab that, come along and you'll get the announcements to any of the shows. And we will be back now in 9 minutes. We'll see you guys in a mo. Thank you very much.